The other day, I was thinking that I wanted to build something cutting edge, high performance. You know, the future of gaming. So naturally, I went with this. Let's see what we're getting ourselves into. You know, there's nothing like starting off a build with organized, chaotic mess. It really sets the tone. This was a time when gaming was simple. No microtransactions, no season passes. Just you, 2 controllers, and anxiety-inducing video games. Alright, I started with the base, and there's nothing too wild going on here, but you can already tell that something mechanical is happening. We have springs, rods, and a lot of pieces that look way more complicated than they probably are. And this might not look like much, but I will say that these springs are very satisfying, along with turning these wheels. You know, back in the day, we didn't just click on a game, we physically inserted a game cartridge, like civilized people. We also had cutting-edge technology that would let us know if the machine was on or off, which is kind of important. And we needed a functional way to connect our 2 controllers, with a little guidance, of course. These are the most important buttons of them all because if things went wrong, they were literally our only hope. Before HDMI, this is how we connected everything. No automatic setup, no easy fixes, just endless cable flipping and hoping it magically worked. And if that still didn't work, time to unplug everything and aggressively reinsert it. Now it's time to build the vents that aren't actual vents. These do nothing. They exist purely to make this look like a high-tech entertainment system. You see, we needed to convince our parents this wasn't some toy. It had to blend in with the serious electronics because gaming wasn't real entertainment yet. Inside the Nintendo, hidden where no one will ever see it, we have a tiny version of level 1-2 from Super Mario Bros. It has zero effect on the build, it doesn't move, and it doesn't connect to anything. It's something you'll forget exists within 5 minutes, but it's also my favorite part of the build so far. Thankfully, the springs are working, and that push-down click is as satisfying as I remember it. As we close the top, this locks in all the mechanics underneath, leaving just the clean, classic Nintendo design on the outside. Most of the work is now hidden inside, but that's what makes this build fun. It's not just a static model, there's a whole functional system underneath. I put the finishing touches on next with this lid, which locks everything in place and adds the final branding. The logos are subtle but iconic, no RGB lighting, no glowing effects, just classic red lettering on a gray box. Back then, this is all you needed to play a game, no discs, no downloads, just a solid chunk of plastic with everything on it. And if it didn't work, time for the ancient ritual where you take it out, blow into it like you actually knew what you were doing, and somehow it worked. Now for my favorite part of the build, let's do this justice with proper sticker placement, making sure there's no bubbles and it's perfectly straight. No pressure, just making sure I don't ruin a crucial piece of gaming history. I'd like to make the most of this opportunity where I put this iconic sticker on during my first attempt to thank my patrons for supporting the channel. You make builds like these possible, you're very amazing, and I appreciate you very much. You know, before this, game controllers were kind of messed up. Some had massive joysticks, others had number pads for some reason like a flip phone, and a few looked like they were designed by someone who had never touched a game in their life. Then Nintendo casually came in and did something kinda crazy. A directional pad, 2 buttons, start, select, that's it, and it worked. This wasn't just a good controller, it was the controller. Every modern one traces back to this design. D-pad on the left, buttons on the right, it all started here. Compact, efficient, no nonsense. When you're holding an Xbox or PlayStation controller, you're basically holding a much more comfortable version of this. Built like a brick, designed like a rectangle, and somehow responsible for every controller since. Moving on to book 2, you know, the build was simple up to this point, but that is about to change. You see, we're about to add gears, which means that things are about to start moving. This is where the build starts to feel less like a Lego set and more like a machine. And if I've done this right, this should actually work. But we'll see. These connections here were like the final boss of setting up your console. Plug them in, hope for the best, and if it didn't work, just unplug and try the exact same thing again. Vents like these were everywhere: TVs, consoles, even furniture. It's like RGB lighting today. If there was a flat surface, they were slapping vents on it. How about we add the antenna, which folds up and down just like the ones on old school TVs. A small touch, but it makes the build feel complete. Next, I had to dust off this piece to place a sticker for the TV details. This replicates the manufacturer label you would find on the back of these with the model number, the serial information, and the little details that make this feel real. All we're missing is the significant amount of weight. We have a scrolling scene coming up, and here's the foundation for that. Everything needs to be sturdy here and perfect because pretty soon this whole thing is going to start moving. This is the one place where we can't afford any mistakes. Definitely not the most aesthetic part of this build, but certainly the most functional, and also for my fingers, the most painful. Our scene needs some support beams, so let's slap those together. And magically, we have our foundation. Next, we need to widen these out so we can support the rest of our scene and we can paint a pretty picture. The good thing is that these are color-coded, which will make everything much easier as we build our scene. Now, I hope you like tiny pieces that need to be perfectly aligned as much as I do, because it's a great time to test my patience. As we build, the level is just a bunch of tiny pieces for now, but soon this is going to look very familiar. But we're missing the things that make this Mario, starting with the coin, which has its satisfying sound effects, along with the question block or the original loot box. We can't forget the Goomba, which was responsible for half of our childhood game overs. The turtle shell was a great weapon until it ricocheted back at you. And of course, the mushroom, the one power-up you always needed, because Small Mario was basically like playing Dark Souls with 1 health. As we add more ways to ruin a perfectly good run, we need one more thing that Mario needs because jumping alone won't save him. The warp pipes were pretty weird, and I don't think anyone can explain how those actually work. But let's not worry about that for now because we have to straighten things out and make sure that nothing is off. We don't want others to point out our flaws and imperfections if we can avoid it. And this looks simple for now, but pretty soon this whole thing is going to start moving. In order to do that, we need to wrap the level around the mechanism that's going to bring this to life. This is the moment where it stops being just a display and it actually starts working like a real game. And if everything is set up correctly, this entire scene is about to start scrolling, just like it did back in 1985. But in order for that to happen, we do need to finish the front of the TV, so let's put this over to the side for now. We need to put the controls directly onto it because back then there were no on-screen menus or shortcuts, just a set of dials that told you exactly what they did. And if you wanted to change something, you had to get up, turn a dial manually, and hope you didn't spin past the channel you actually wanted. Basically, TVs used to demand a lot of effort. Really wild times. Next, we need to install the mechanism that makes the knob click. A simple way to be rewarded for our efforts. I could probably do this all day. Now that I got that out of my system, time to put on the remaining knobs to finish the front panel. It's finally time to add the star of the show, but before we do that, we need to make sure that this thing works. And sure enough, it's time to panic. After a little bit of troubleshooting, I had to take the whole thing apart to figure out what the culprit was. And even though I double-checked everything 3 to 4 times, this rod was in the wrong place, not making anything spin. And after a trial run, I can now see that things are moving. Let's go ahead and put our level back inside and make sure that Mario can make his way through. You know, you learn a lot about yourself when you make mistakes during a build, and it's an excellent way to build soft skills, like everyone's favorite, self-doubt. This is starting to look like a real retro TV, but one detail is missing, and that's a single speaker. Back then, that's all that TVs had. There wasn't surround sound or bass, just one tiny speaker firing straight at your face, like that was enough. And somehow we just accepted that. This definitely looks like a retro TV, but you know, we are missing one more thing. We need to build the legs for the bottom of the TV, which is kind of an odd thing to say. Imagine if your current TV had little wooden legs just standing there. For some reason back then we made everything furniture and nobody knows why. But we can say that this is built, finished, and ready to roll. Actually, hold on, I know how to fix this. That's one more build in the books. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.